Hi guys and welcome. So in this video we're going to be doing the base coat and the lacquer stage on this BMW X5. So at this point I've already got it all masked up and everything's prepped up, so all we're going to do is give it a quick blow down with high pressure air and a tack rag just to make sure that any last little bits and pieces are off. I have already done this once, so this is just the last little quick flick over, basically between tacking it off the last time and mixing the paint up and everything in the mixing room and getting this all ready to go. So spray gun wise on this, we're going to go Devillbiss on both. We're going to go for the FLG-5 in a 1.4 setup, so to run the base through. It's a favourite gun of mine for my base coat. You're looking at running this at around 20 to 25 psi and a full fan. This is only a trade job, this one, so we're not going for any blending work or anything like that. We're just a straight hit on the bumper and a straight hit on the top of that tailgate. And this BMW Sapphire Black, the match that we've got that comes off our supplier, is a good match anyway, so it's nothing too much to worry about as far as colour match wise goes. So the first coat, as usual, all I'm really doing is I'm just popping down a really nice light coat. All I want this to do is to basically give a bit of a grip for the next coat, and also this first light coat gives a bit of a highlight if you're going to have any problem areas. Maybe you've got a few little burn throughs, etc. And you know, there's always that little chance of getting silicone in the job. So all I'm doing is putting down this first light coat, and it'll show up if there's going to be any silicone problems with it. Any little bits that look like they're going to start, the edges are going to start mapping or anything like that, or anywhere where there's a little bit of a burn through, if any of that's going to start reacting in any way. That first coat will just start to highlight that. So what I'm doing now basically is just going straight back over with the second coat now. And now what we're going now is we're going for more of a full coverage with the second coat. We're going to put it down nice and wet. We know from the first coat that we can see there's no issues with how the base coat is going to go down. So we're just going to throw this down now, get this nice and wetted up, ready for maybe one or two drop coats over the top, just to make sure that everything's even and everything's fully coloured and everything looks nice. So trade job wise, we're going edge to edge on this job. It's pretty much a full mask job. There's only one or two tiny trims that have been taken off, and the badge is obviously off the boot. It's trade work. The problem is with it, for the most part, is it's a cost issue. Most traders want trade work for as cheap as they can get it. So for us, you know, we're not going to run expensive like to HS Clear on this. We're just going to go with the cheaper colour mix MS Clear. And we're not going to go into as much detail with stripping down the car and taking the bumper off, stuff like that, because for the shop, profit wise, there just isn't as much in it for the shop. So we've put down now the first coat and then the second wetter coat. So what we're going to be working on now, as you can see, it's pretty much coloured up, is just coming a touch further away and a touch lighter now, and just putting a couple of drop coats over the top, just to make sure that this is all metallic now, is nice and even. There's no banding on any metallic where you might have a little bit of a iffy overlap or anything like that. And this will just help everything now lay out nice, sit nice, and just give this the overall look to the metallic and any pearls that may be in the paints. A good even finish across the panels. Like I said, this particular colour, with the match that we've got, it's not an issue with an edge to edge. And then lacquer wise, I'm going to run my new GTI PROLITE on this job, and I'm going to use the T110 cap. This is basically the first one I've tried the T110 for with MS Clear. Now I'm going to be using a cheaper colour mix MS Clear through the cap. And since I have done a lot more work with the PROLITE, and I have to say it's a new favourite gun of mine. I've found that the Max Mayer 0200 through the T110 and the 1.3 needle setup actually goes on really nice, and you don't quite need the pressure as high. You can get it, I found, around about 1.8 bar, and the Max Mayer will go through it really nice with the T110. So it's always something to bear in mind, you know, when you're picking your lacquers, when you're picking your air caps, etc. You know, have a bit of a play around with them. If you've got sort of cheaper trade working like this that you can afford to say, right, well, you know, on this one I'm going to try this other cap, so that, say, if it comes out and it's not quite the finish you wanted, you know you are going to be prepared to flat and polish it a bit, or alter your setup as you go. And the biggest part of any of it, guys, is just making sure you do your research. Research your guns, research your setup, and if you've got a spare panel lying around the shop, do a bit of trial and error on that panel, with your clears, with your setup, with your pressures, and figure out what's going to work best for you. Figure out what can do a nice factory, figure out what can do your nice glass finish, and just play around with it. So, as I said before, we're running the GTI PROLITE with a 1.3, and we've got the T110 cap and the MS clear. Now I'm running this at 2 bar, and I have to say it did put it on really nice. It's only a cheaper clear if you want. I think this stuff's about £50–60 a kit for a 7.5 litre kit. It's good for little trade jobs like this. Quite often you can get away with just throwing it on and not having to nib anything off it. It dries fast as well. You know, you can paint this up last thing before you go home, come in the next morning, without having to put a bake on it, and a quick flat and polish, and it can go straight out the door if it needs it. Or you can just leave it straight off the gun if it comes out nice enough. Now, the particular setup that I used on this, I have to say, factory finish wise, it was absolutely spot on. I ran the Max Mayer with the same setup, but dropped it down to 1.8 bar, and when I ran the Max Mayer at that, I have to say it came out like glass through the T110. So it is worth having a play around with different clears at the same settings or different settings with different caps to see what you're getting out of it, and also what kind of finish you want to get from it. So on this coat here, what I've done is I've just put a little bit of a slow motion in, just so you can see the atomization and just how nice the fan pattern is on this PROLITE. I have to say it's got a really nice big fan on this, really puts it on nice. This T110 cap really does atomize your paint really nice and fine. So with this 1.3, it, as you can see, it gives a real good wet finish with ease. You know, you're not going to be battling against your spray gun, which for me is a major thing. I've had a few spray guns in the past, and normally, to be fair, they're the cheaper end of the market, that you're struggling to get that wet look. And part of that wet look really is just being a little bit braver when you're applying it. You know, if you're putting it on, you think, oh no, I don't want this to go down too dry, then and you go too wet, then you're going to get runs. If you think, oh, I don't want to go too wet, and then you end up with dry spots. So again, it's more trial and error, finding the limits of your products. So I know with this colour mix that I can absolutely smash this stuff on, because flash off time on it, there's hardly any flash off time on it. If this was something like the liquid glass, which got a longer flash off time, you want to be a little bit more careful. If you actually smash the stuff on, then you're going to end up with it hanging off the side of your car at the end of the day. So you want to tweak your settings, tweak your painting style to what really does work with the materials and the tooling that you're using, which is one thing. You know, like around about a year ago, I was thinking about giving up this trade, and it wasn't until I found sort of like my passion for the job back, and started to put a lot more effort into research, into my products, into what works, into the settings, into distancing and pressures and everything else, that I really got back into my groove, and I really got my love back for the job and started smashing out finishes like this. So that's it for this job, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video and the information in it. If you like it, don't forget, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.